Even love doesn't always come with a promise of loyalty. People can cheat out of curiosity, spite, or even just impulse. But does it really matter why? Well, knowing it wasn't some grand, all-consuming love make the betrayal easier to bear? It sure didn't for me. Up until recently, I had what anyone would call a happy life. A loving wife, our bright and grown-up daughter, Sophia, a cozy home, and a job I genuinely enjoyed. Life with Claire was steady, predictable in the best way. There were no messy fights or pointless drama. She trusted me completely, never demanding anything unreasonable. I loved her with all my heart. Claire was the perfect homemaker. Our home was always spotless. The fridge always stocked. At work, she was well respected, a true professional. She was always closing deals and staying ahead of the game. Then, about a year ago, her company landed a major client, a big-name corporation. The CEO was a confident man in his 50s, a bit rough around the edges but clearly powerful. Claire and her colleagues spent over a month pitching, negotiating, and persuading. Eventually, the guy caved and signed the contract. He wasn't easy to deal with, but Claire's persistence paid off. As it turns out, though, there was more to it than just business. 2 weeks ago, my wife told me everything. The night the contract was signed, both companies went out to celebrate. Dinner, drinks, the usual. As the night came to a close, everyone began heading home. Claire was about to call a cab when the CEO, Richard, insisted on driving her home himself. At this point in the story, she hesitated. Her voice suddenly became unsteady. "Michael, I can't keep this from you anymore. You need to hear this. It's better if you hear it from me." Something in her tone put me on edge. My gut twisted, and I braced myself for the worst. She took a deep breath and continued. When we got to my building, he stopped the car and told me he'd been stalling the deal because he enjoyed seeing me every time we met. I didn't know what to say. I felt embarrassed, caught off guard. Then he took my hand and said he dreamed about me, that he'd do anything to take me away from you. I clenched my fists, my chest tightening. I pulled my hand away, mumbled an excuse, and got out of the car as quickly as I could. Relief washed over me. She had turned him down. "Thank you for telling me," I murmured, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away. She stood up and started pacing the room. "Wait, let me finish," she said. "You don't understand. I thought I'd never, ever give in to Richard." Her voice faltered. But I did. My stomach dropped. The room seemed to spin. My heart pounded, a sharp pain blooming in my ribs. Michael, we slept together," she admitted. "I don't even know why. I don't love him. I don't even know if I like him. And the sex." She let out a bitter laugh. "It wasn't even what I expected. It was nothing like what we have." I shot up from my chair, my blood boiling. "Are you seriously about to describe what it was like with him to me?" My voice shook with rage. "Michael, please, I'm trying to tell you that it wasn't love. It was something reckless, something stupid, a moment of insanity. And now all that's left is shame," she whispered, twisting her hands. I just stared at her, the woman I thought I knew, the life I thought I had. And in that moment, I felt everything begin to crumble. And that's when I realized just how much I loved her, just how much I needed her. Claire's voice trembled. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I swear I am. If you can find it in you to forgive me." She sank into a chair, curling in on herself like she wanted to disappear. 27 years. That's how long we'd been together. In all that time, I'd never doubted her, never even considered the possibility that she could betray me. Now, my heart ached so fiercely that I could barely breathe. I just stared at her, my mind reeling. Memories flashed. Our first meeting, our first kiss, our wedding, the day Sophia was born. Was all of that worth throwing away for one night with a man who cared about nothing but his own ego? I couldn't do it. I couldn't stay under the same roof with her. With what little strength I had left, I walked out. Slowly, numbly, I wandered down the street, not even knowing where I was going. The first bar I saw became my refuge. I sat down, ordered a glass of cognac, then another and another. Drowning my grief until they finally kicked me out at closing time, I stumbled outside, flagged down a taxi, and gave the driver my sister's address. Emma's eyes widened when she saw me standing at her door in the middle of the night, but she didn't ask questions. She just let me in, made up the couch, and left me to whatever storm was raging inside me. By morning, I felt like death. When Emma and her husband left for work, I gave up any pretense of dignity and rummaged through their liquor cabinet. I drank whatever I could find, not caring what it was or the order in which I drank it. I just needed to forget. At some point, the world tilted. My body lurched sideways, and I crashed into a chair. I tried to stand, but my limbs wouldn't cooperate. My left hand, why won't it move? The room darkened. Through the haze, I saw Claire, her face blurred, streaked with tears. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her to leave, to get out of my sight, but when I opened my mouth, only garbled sounds came out. Then nothing. I woke up to my sister sitting beside me, her face pale and tight with worry. "You had a stroke, Michael," she said softly. "We found you just in time." And so began the long, grueling process of recovery. Hospital beds, therapy sessions, learning to speak clearly again, trying and failing to walk without a limp. Emma was always there. So was Sophia. Claire, she was there too. She worked during the day and spent every evening at my bedside, tending to me, watching over me. She did everything she could, but it didn't change anything. I got better, at least enough to function. I could use a computer again, take care of myself. My sister's husband helped me get a job. It wasn't much pay, but it was easy work. I lived in a small apartment the company provided for non-local employees. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Claire kept apologizing over and over. She reminded me how she had stayed by my side, how she had taken care of me, as if that could erase what she'd done. One day, I told her the truth. "I love you, Claire," I admitted, "but I can't forgive you." Sophia couldn't either. She barely spoke to her mother, avoiding her at every turn. I understood her pain, but I didn't want her to carry that bitterness forever. Emma, on the other hand, thought I should forgive. She didn't love him, Michael, she told me. Doesn't that mean something? I thought about that for a long time, and in the end I realized no, that didn't make it better. In some ways, it made it worse, because cheating without love wasn't a mistake of the heart. It was just selfishness, and I could never forget that.